Complaints of wrongdoing against state employees increasing from the prior year, and Chicago's budget is still elusive. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. I'm with you each and every weekday morning here for the Center Square. You can go to thecentersquare.com, check the headlines, and at the Illinois page where I'm the editor, we've got a great team giving you what you need to know to get your day going. But you can go to thecentersquare.com, get the headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning. Just click newsletter and sign up with your email. It's free. It's completely open to you and everyone else. So go check it out and get those headlines. No paywall. You can just get right there and you can check out the latest from across the country, but also at the Illinois page. And you'll get things like quick hits, just short little news nuggets that you need to know, but plenty of other headlines for you to delve into of what's going on across the states and in Chicago and elsewhere. But obviously we focus on how government's impacting you and the taxpayer. So we'll hit that obviously each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus. I appreciate you guys joining, and especially the live chat. You guys are always lively and keeping things fair and clean, so I appreciate that. But hey, listen, we got a couple of segments we're going to tackle today, but another busy day today. Governor J.B. Pritzker, no longer in Springfield. He's back up in Chicago. Came down here for at least just one day's worth of public events. But today he's going to be signing the Northern Illinois Transit Authority Act. And it's a piece of legislation that critics say bails out Chicago public transit with higher taxes and sweeping road funds and not having a fair distribution of those dollars for mass transit to go to the rest of the state. So obviously there's going to be a lot of back and forth on that as the governor is set to sign that measure in Chicago today, later on this morning. Plus, you've got a slew of hearings over in the U.S. House, including one on the state of aviation, another about the Southern Poverty Law Center's impact on civil rights policy. Plus, the U.S. Senate, they've got a couple of hearings, one about fair access to banks, and another about the risk and reward of more accountable government. President Trump, he's got an ambassador credential ceremony planned today, and then he celebrates Hanukkah. So that's just some of what's coming up today, at least as far as coverage of some of the things on our radar. Obviously, a lot more enterprise stories that you'll find at the Center Square, including our investigative team. So be sure to get the headlines in your inbox at thecentersquare.com. But what we're going to be talking about today is just two issues. Chicago's budget, still very much elusive. What are they going to be doing to fill $1 billion deficit that the mayor has in his budget? He's looking for $16 billion plus, but they've got $1 billion deficit. How are they going to tax people more to plug that public spending hole? And is it going to be a liquor tax? A group of hospitality industry individuals opposing a proposal to increase the liquor tax and the alcohol tax, and we'll hear from them. We'll hear some of what Mayor Brandon Johnson had to say after the city council did not have enough council members to conduct any business yesterday, so the meeting literally lasted, well, I don't even think the meeting really got started because they took a roll call, and we'll see that. But before that, Governor J.B. Pritzker in town yesterday announcing $2 million for homeless operations in Springfield, but it's part of the $200+ million that the state has set aside for dealing with the homeless populations across the state. And the governor in town talking about that, but I had to ask him about something totally unrelated about wrongdoing and state employees being found to have committed wrongdoing on a new report out from the Office of Executive Inspector General. saying that wrongdoing complaints against state employees is up nearly 30% since last year. So what's going on there? We'll get to that. It is Illinois in Focus Daily each and every weekday morning. I'm Greg Bishop with you here for the Center Square.
I want people to, if they're doing something wrong, they should get caught. If people feel like somebody's doing something wrong, they should report it and it should be investigated.
We know that when there's government money, that there's going to be all kinds of fraud. We know there's going to be all kinds of abuse.
Wrongdoing complaints against Illinois state employees on the rise over last year, according to the Office of Executive Inspector General. Good morning, I'm Greg Bishop, and it is Illinois in Focus Daily with the Center Square. You can go to thecentersquare.com/Illinois and find the headlines there, and you can get the newsletter in your inbox each and every weekday morning. Just go to the website and click newsletter, and you'll be able to sign up for that. All right, so let's get to it. Yesterday, Governor J.B. Pritzker was in town announcing homeless grants for operations to help those who are experiencing homelessness, and $2 million going to a Springfield collection of organizations to tackle homelessness. But that's just part of $200+ million, I believe, that the state has set aside to tackle the homelessness issue across the state of Illinois. But as I was sitting there, I got an email from the Illinois Office of Executive Inspector General that says the number of complaints against state employees is up nearly 30%. So let's go to the website, thecentersquare.com. You'll see this headline: wrongdoing complaints against Illinois state employees jumps nearly 30%. And the Office of Executive Inspector General, and we'll read here from the story, released its annual report for fiscal year 2025, and the report found nearly 4,000 complaints, or a 29% increase over the prior fiscal year. So when I saw this, and I'm sitting there, and the governor's getting ready to take questions from the media, I had to ask him about this because obviously the Executive Inspector General investigates wrongdoing of executive state agencies. Those are the agencies that Governor J.B. Pritzker oversees as governor of Illinois. So I asked him to talk a little bit about this issue and also about some training. Is that something that needs to be done more in the state of Illinois?
I want people to, if they're doing something wrong, they should get caught. If people feel like somebody's doing something wrong, they should report it and it should be investigated. So I encourage people to do it. Maybe in the past people have been reluctant to come forward because it feels like maybe people feel like they don't want to turn in people that are around them in government. But I think it's important for us to run the most honest government we possibly can. So I encourage people to do the right thing. And by the way, the Office of Executive Inspector General has been well run, and they've done a good job of doing the investigations, and they've taken actions that I think are mostly appropriate, and so I'm glad. I do the training every year. We have a lot of training that we do, and I do think that we're attracting good people to government, and that's sometimes hard to do. Government doesn't always pay as much as you could find perhaps doing something else. But I think there are people who want to come into a government that has a mission of serving people, and I think we've done a pretty good job of attracting those people, not just in leadership positions, but just in line positions. And we talk a lot at the agency level, and our agency leaders talk a lot about the fact that we have customers. The people of Illinois are the customers of government, and our job is to do our best, work for them. And
the governor obviously discussing this after I brought it up about this new annual report from the Office of the Illinois Executive Inspector General. And this report, we're gonna go through it a little bit. I mean, it's 75 pages, not all of it we're gonna go through, but we'll get a good sense of what's here. And you can find this report at the story. You can go to thecentersquare.com and you'll see the link to it. But scrolling through the 2025 annual report, this really is just for the fiscal year 2025. So that ended on June 30th of this year. So wrapping that year up, they talk about the different numbers of complaints and the highlighted cases that were founded. Like, for instance, after an investigation revealed hiring improprieties, our Hiring and Employment Monitor Division worked extensively with the agency and the governor's office to review and develop a new hiring plan to ensure fair and competitive selection for investigative and intelligence roles at state agencies. Another investigation revealed conflicts of interest issues with reconciliation of vendor payments. Another investigation uncovered for 5 years a transit agency paid over $1 million to employees to stay at home and not work at least 2 days a week. And this one may become relevant as the governor is set to sign today the tax increase bill for mass transit up in the Chicagoland area. So you've got the letter from the Inspector General there, but obviously you've got more information about the number of complaints, and here's where you've got the chart showing the number of complaints on the rise, an increasing trend of complaints. So 2021, 2,300 complaints. Now, almost doubled for fiscal year 2025, nearly 4,000 complaints. All right, so that's just the number of complaints, not the number of founded reports. But let's go back to the story here from the Center Square. You've got the OEIG saying the published report also illustrates continued trend of misconduct involving employees and conflicts of interest and or improper secondary employment. Asked about the report Monday, the governor says that he wants people to file those complaints. One case that the OEIG found, an agency director continued to have financial interest in a vendor that was involved in decisions to award work to the vendor. And there was an increase in payments to the vendor and an increase to the vendor's billing for subcontract work. The OEIG's office said that the agency's auditing the vendor's billing and reconciliations to implement new policies and procedures for conflicts of interest. The governor's office also mandating training for agency fiscal officers related to reconciliation of vendor payments, according to the OEIG. So all of this, I was able to get back to the Capitol yesterday because the governor had a news conference at noon, and the Illinois Freedom Caucus had a news conference on an unrelated issue at 1. So I had to literally speed over to the Capitol to get there in time for the Freedom Caucus news conference, which was about the Hanover Park police officer who's getting, $79,000 salary, $200,000 in the total taxpayer costs, non-citizen allegedly. DHS is still at a case open against him, but he's a police officer, and the Freedom Caucus was highlighting their concerns about a non-citizen being given the authority to arrest citizens and to carry firearms. But I had to ask about this accountability issue, about the issue of more complaints, record number of complaints against state employees within Pritzker administration agencies. State Representative Brad Halbrook said he's not really surprised by this.
Without a doubt, right? We know that this is going on. We talked about it in May about the budget, $1 billion going to NGOs, all the other stuff. We know that when there's government money, that there's going to be all kinds of fraud. We know there's going to be all kinds of abuse. This stuff has to be fine-tooth comb so that we can begin to root that out. Again, it's written in the budget. We know who's getting these monies. We know how many dollars they're receiving, but there's evidently zero accountability on some of these things.
No checks and balances there at all.
Right.
Now, when we look at the OEIG report in a little bit more detail, you get a general sense of the things that they're looking at. And for instance, the number of complaints, really, it's across the state. And you get even further to some of the different types of published reports. A lot of conflicts of interest, misconduct involving secondary employment, sexual harassment, mismanagement, falsification of documents, revolving door violations, mismanagement, and it goes on. Other cases it highlights about Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. Again, all taxpayer-funded agencies under the Pritzker administration. One of the things it also tackled here, and it was pretty stunning to see, just a sampling of the different types of Paycheck Protection Program funding abuse. Now, the Paycheck Protection Program, if you recall, this was a COVID-era program the federal government had to pay individuals who couldn't go to work because the local governments, like Governor J.B. Pritzker, had ordered that businesses can't open and operate. So a lot of people didn't have a job to go to. So federal government went ahead and use tax dollars for the Paycheck Protection Program to give businesses the kind of lifeline they need to keep their employees paid, even though they were ordered not to have open to the public facilities. So the OEIG here saying during fiscal year 2025, the OEIG continued to investigate state employees who are alleged to have improperly obtained federal Paycheck Protection Program loans, and determined that there was reasonable cause to believe that many of these employees violated the state of Illinois Code of Personal Conduct and or agency policy by obtaining PPP loans based on falsified information. And then you go through and it highlights some of the cases here. And it ranges from the different state agencies. I mean, listen, they had 500 investigations, 300 were founded, and you're looking at the total PPP loans, and they average about $20,000+. Some getting $40,000. Child support specialists getting $40,000 PPP loan. You've got just this list goes on. DCFS employees, DHS employees, a lot of DHS employees getting $20,000. You've got Department of let's see here, Illinois Department of Military Affairs, the Department of Juvenile Justice, the Department of Corrections, Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulations, a health services investigator got almost $40,000. And these were individuals, state government employees who had jobs. They were on the job. They still got paid even though they didn't have to go to the office, but they're tapping into federal Paycheck Protection Program funds for $20,000. So the scope of the report here highlighting that there's an increased number of wrongdoing complaints against state employees. Is it grounds for more investigation? Is it grounds for public hearings so that the public knows the extent of this without it having to be reported by a news organization, for instance, or having to be reported by the OEIG in a report that many taxpayers out there probably never even heard of, the Office of Executive Inspector General. So should there be more public awareness about this, especially from the oversight body of the executive branch? The Illinois General Assembly should be that kind of checks and balance, but you've got Democrat supermajorities in the General Assembly and a Democrat governor. Are Democrats who control the General Assembly going to hold hearings? I asked Republican State Representative Brad Halbrook, should there be hearings about this wrongdoing? He says there needs to be a lot of hearings about that and other issues.
Well, we think that would be a true statement. We think they should hold hearings on lots of things, and we've asked for hearings. We asked for hearings back in the spring on energy, and that was ignored for nearly 3 months. And finally, I believe the Senate Democrats began in August on an energy hearing, didn't invite the House Energy Committee in. But there was ultimate 3 hearings, I think, that happened as a result of energy. So there's lots of things that we need to get in the open, we need to discuss and bring people to the table to sort this out.
Again, State Representative Brad Halbrook there discussing the importance for having public hearings about some of this wrongdoing involving you, the taxpayers' resources being abused. So increased number of wrongdoing complaints filed, people being terminated because of it, even criminal referrals being made. And the state of Illinois clearly has an upward trend of complaints against state employees. What's the governor doing about it? He says he encourages people to file those complaints and have more training. All right, it's Illinois in Focus Daily. Get the latest in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com.
have 20 members present. 26 members are needed for quorum pursuant to Rule 3. We cannot undertake any business without a quorum. Can I get a motion? Alderman Irvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Despite more than half of the council not showing up to work today, I move we adjourn.
All right, well, hearing no objections, so ordered. This meeting is adjourned.
That was the Chicago City Council meeting yesterday as they tried to come into order, but there weren't enough city aldermen there to conduct any business, so they went ahead and adjourned. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Go to thecentersquare.com for the latest and wake up with us here for Illinois in Focus with the Center Square. Why is this important? Because the end of the month is the deadline for the city, state's largest city, to tell its taxpayers how it's going to be spending its money. The taxpayer money. You got a $16+ billion budget that the mayor laid out, and there's $1 billion plus deficits. How is that going to be filled? He wants a head tax. He wants a tax on employees for businesses over 500. That's a modification from what he originally had of taxing businesses per employee if they have more than 100 employees. A lot of pushback from that, including from Illinois Comptroller Susana Mendoza, who could be eyeing a bid for Chicago mayor, critical of the mayor's head tax and talking about the lost tax revenue from big businesses fleeing the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. So the mayor's been pushing on this, talking about the, quote, progressive revenue, which really just means more tax increases, to fund city priorities like public safety, he says. And he's very adamant about youth jobs and the correlation, he says, is with public safety in that space. So here we are, less than 2 weeks now, and the city of Chicago still doesn't have a budget. They had several meetings and discussions about, proposals, but not really anything coming together as maybe the Chicago taxpayers would like to think. So some of the new proposals includes a liquor tax, a tax on alcohol, and the Hospitality Business Association of Chicago and others held a news conference yesterday. The Center Square's Jim Talamonte was there, and he captured some of their concerns about a proposed tax on alcohol that could possibly be part of a budget for the city of Chicago.
Consumers are stressed, and stressed consumers don't go out, they cut back spending. I can't imagine if you're a stressed consumer and all of a sudden you're hearing and learning that we could potentially be at 13.5% on your grocery card purchase of beer, wine, or spirits, that's going to make you want to go out and buy more. More generally, when the NETA RTA extra sales tax comes in, it's going to be 15% to go out to dinner downtown because we have the McCormick tax on top of that. That's going to be shocking to the casual visitor, but that was how the State House saw fit to go on that. So we are just throwing out revenue ideas that punish the small independents with that cumulative stack of sales taxes.
Part of this budget hole was created, a small part, by the removal of the local grocery tax. What do you think about the council's decision to seemingly forego keeping that while targeting specifically off-premise consumption of alcohol?
I would say that's above my pay grade because that was a political process issue on when they chose to let it get through the State House, where, as far as I know, the city of Chicago didn't even oppose it or ask for a longer phase out. So there was an old dear city council department head named Norma Reyes who always said, don't make your lack of planning my emergency. And that's a lot what this feels like. They knew that grocery tax was going away and there was no chance of passing it at city council. And now we're the life preserver for that lack of foresight. That's not fair to our small independents.
And there's a lot of pushback on this idea from those small independents. Also there was Koval Distillery owner.
This is a city that knows how to be joyous. And part of that is going out and celebrating and enjoying something to drink. And we're proud to make something locally with the farmers' grains of local Illinois. And what that means is this doesn't just affect my business, but like all manufacturing, every dollar that goes into manufacturing is about $2.50 into the local economy. But on the other side of it, it means that there are a lot of other businesses that are local that will also be affected by this. And I can tell you it will also affect local farms that are not going to be able to provide us with the grain that they're growing because we're going to have to cut back because this is going to affect our sales. And all of this is coming at a time in which our industry is really dealing with a lot of issues. And I know that it's affecting local manufacturers of distilled spirits in Chicago because a few of these businesses have already scaled back, left the city, or had to close.
So clearly this is going to impact an industry in the city of Chicago if they increase the amount of tax on alcohol sales. And you heard the hospitality group there say that they feel like they're the life preserver for poor political decisions that legislators and city officials have made in the past year. Because of the grocery tax, for instance. I mean, that was a big, long debate, and the millions of dollars that ultimately means local municipalities that benefited from that 1% tax statewide, it's gone away, but they can implement it locally. Chicago, not doing that. So what are they going to do instead? This alcohol tax? The mayor was asked about this yesterday. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, as of course you saw him during the end part of the city council sprint off of the podium. Now, I don't know if it's necessarily a sprint. Maybe that was a wrong characterization, but he then held a media availability yesterday where he was asked about the alcohol tax proposal.
Especially because, you proposed a budget without a grocery tax. Do you think this is in a similar vein regressive?
Well, look, we've already put forth a proposed budget that challenges these corporations, the largest ones, to put more skin in the game. In fact, some of the feedback that we received was that our community safety surcharge, which is an important investment that corporations want us to make, that we did not situate, our calculation around the technical definition of a small business. So we have even expressed and shown a willingness to shift the threshold for businesses that would be brought into this revenue stream. As far as the liquor lobby, I do understand their concern. I'll just put it point blank. As far as the intentions around it, you would have to get that understanding from those who are proposing it. But we do certainly understand their concern.
And the mayor obviously still very much wanting to have his corporate head tax proposal passed, and he was asked and discussed about that a little bit yesterday during the news conference following that council meeting that had to not happen because they didn't have a quorum. Here's the mayor yesterday being asked about the corporate head tax.
Well, I think that the hyper interest of corporations, the corporate head tax has always been the issue, right? So that's not a breaking discovery, but to your frame of your question around ensuring that we have structural revenue sources in place to strengthen the long-term viability of our economy, absolutely. And that's just not my projection or analysis. That includes the analysis of the Civic Federation that understand that, as well as the Civic Committee of the Commercial Club, that in order for us to have a vibrant economy moving forward, the practices that we have implemented over the first couple of years have already put us on a pathway for long-term sustainability.
And very quickly, the Federal Transit Administration wanted your CTA safety plan today.
Again, you got the mayor being asked about a variety of things, and that question about the transit safety. We're probably going to hear a lot more about that later on today as Governor J.B. Pritzker signs that measure that allows for the Regional Transit Authority to increase taxes on Cook County and surrounding counties to fund mass transit, which has spent a lot of money, especially COVID dollars, and says that they had a $700 million fiscal cliff for this year, but then they revised that down to $200+ million, and the state of Illinois decided to go ahead and give them $1.5 billion. And not just the tax increases, the sales tax, which you heard the hospitality group say that that prospect on top of the prospect of an alcohol tax in Chicago is going to make a tax on this product like 15+% or something. And that's just Wow. What that means for people looking to go to Chicago and just have a good time. It's going to be pretty expensive, especially when you're having to pay that much tax. But the Chicago mayor, obviously at the helm of trying to piece together a spending plan before the end of the month. And I think that's important here. We got less than 2 weeks before the end of the month that they have to have a budget in place. And by law, it has to be a balanced budget. What happens if they don't get that in place? Here's the mayor getting fielded that question.
Can you give us a better picture of however we get there, if there is not a budget, what happens on January 1st? Are city workers told not to show up, or are they told to show up and you're going to work without pay for a while? Just a better sense of like logistically what happens without a budget.
December 30th is the date. By close of business on December 30th, we have to have a balanced budget. In the absence of the balanced budget, we have to then give notice to every collective bargaining agreement holder, which is 40 plus, that we don't have a balanced budget. Come January 1st, in the absence of a balanced budget, we cannot remunerate, we can't pay people, we can't meet our contractual obligations, if they're open bonding obligations, our property tax levy, which is tied to a balanced budget, all of that and more descends. We provide water to a host of suburbs. There have to be people in place to provide that work. If there's no money to pay, then those individuals are not in place. So we then move into a category called essential worker designation. And even in the instance of an essential worker, you still have to pay them. And there would have to be, those individuals will be working without pay until such time that we have a balanced budget.
You know, it's very similar to the government shutdown in the federal government. You got essential workers. Some may get paid, others not. How is that going to impact city operations with a variety of things, including things not impacting the city? As you just heard, with water, the city helps supply some neighboring jurisdictions. We'll be watching this closely. I know the holiday's coming up, right? Next week, there's going to be a lot of people just tuning out, but we're going to be tuning in to make sure that you're up to date. So stay with us here with Illinois in Focus. Our reporter, Jim Talamonte, at the Center Square is on top of this. We'll have to bring him on to talk more about this, maybe sometime this week, and get into the nitty-gritty of city operations and its impact on you, the taxpayer. All right, it's Illinois in Focus Daily. Get to the website, thecentersquare.com, and get the newsletter each and every morning in your inbox. Get this podcast where you get podcasts. And, of course, wake up with us for Illinois in Focus Daily. All right, that's all I got for you this morning. Appreciate you guys being here and tuning in, sharing it up, and conversation, keeping it lively. We've got a lot to tackle this morning. Later on, Governor J.B. Pritzker is holding a bill signing ceremony. He's going to be signing that mass transit, some call it a bailout. And a lot of the conversation around that is, well, you're looking for more tax money. What about accountability? What about the operations? Some said there needs to be reform to Regional Transit Authority before they're thrown more money, but they decided to do kind of both. So we'll see a little kind of restructuring of the RTA, plus the ability for the RTA to increase taxes. You've got the sweeping of the road fund interest money that's going to be going to mass transit, and the vast majority of it going to the Chicagoland area. A lot of debate in the Senate when this passed in October about how disproportionate that is. So are we not going to have a fair amount of money going to downstate mass transit, or are we just going to go and bail out the Regional Transit Authority? A lot to tackle each and every day, and you'll get it here with Illinois in Focus. Guys, have a great rest of your Tuesday, right? Yeah. We'll see you back here tomorrow for more Illinois in Focus Daily. Only with the Center Square.
Thank you.